Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to the most electrifying podcast in all of internet radio today. You are listening to the Sports Wire. And yes, this will be up on YouTube later on today as well once I get through editing stuff. I am about to have a an interview with indie wrestling star Jessica Jean. She goes by the Twitter handle at Wrestling Lady. And I just wanted to basically find out if anybody had any questions. I did put it out there. She is a pro wrestler and manager of champions, three-time TPW Women's Champion, one-time IWA Women's Champion, one-time FWE Women's Champion. She's based in Cincinnati, Ohio. She is on Facebook, facebook.com/Jessica Jean Wrestler. And you can go over there and find out, connect with her, and follow her on Twitter at wrestling_lady. I am going to be having an interview with her, but I wanted to at least get this introduction out of the way. I will be back momentarily with my interview with Jessica Jean. Again, my name is Vinny Apicella. You are listening to the Sports Wire, and this will be up on YouTube as well. Uh, so I will be back. Jessica?
Yep.
All right, you made it on.
Yeah. I figured it out through an app, so.
Oh, good. Okay. Um, well, my name is Vinny. Um, and so your wrestling name is Jessica Jean?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Originally, it was JJ Sparks, but I always wanted to use Jessica Jean as the ring name
Hmm.
because that's my deceased sister's first name and my mother's middle name, and I wanted to use that name as a way to honor both of them.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. I'm sorry that you lost your sister.
Yeah, she passed away when I was in high school, so it was a long time ago, but it was actually her birthday on the 31st, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, I gotcha. All right, well, I'm gonna start the interview right about now. And we'll just I don't have any preset questions or anything, just a normal conversation, and we'll just take it one step at a time.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with female wrestler Jessica Jean. And how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to connect and have you come on the Sportswire podcast. Uh, so, we were just talking a little bit ago before we started the actual interview on how you got your ring name.
Uh,
Um, so, if you would like to enlighten the fans.
yeah, sure. Originally my ring name was JJ Sparks. My first trainer, the last outlaw, he decided to do JJ Sparks as my ring name. I did tell them originally I actually wanted to use the ring name Jessica Jean, because Jessica was my deceased sister's name, and then Jean is my mother's middle name, and I wanted to take those names and combine them as my ring name as a way of honoring both of them.
Okay.
So, for a while, I couldn't use the ring name. But then once I was no longer being trained by the Last Outlaw because he parted ways with the company that I was training with, after a while, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to change my ring name to what I actually wanted it to be.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, before we get into your actual wrestling career, let's kind of go back in time a little bit and find out how you first got interested in wrestling in general. Were you a fan growing up?
Absolutely. I grew up watching it. My brother was actually the one who got me into it. He was more into WCW,
Okay.
but somehow I came along videos, VHS tapes of WWF, which is now known as WWE, and I just fell in love with World Wrestling Federation and just pro wrestling in general. I love the Attitude Era. I thought it was amazing.
Well, that's awesome. I happen to agree with you. I think the Attitude Era was one of the best times in wrestling. The Monday Night Wars in general was just when wrestling was at its hottest. Um, so, who were some of your favorites growing up?
I definitely liked Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker. On the female side, I liked Trish Stratus and Lita, and I absolutely loved Lita with the Hardy Boys as well. I know she doesn't, I know a lot of people don't really care for her too much because she kind of was more on the diva side of things and not so much on the actual athleticism side, even though she could do some pretty good moves. I actually did like Sable at first because she was one of the few women that were around at that time that I was watching. And then I also liked China, who was really, really tough in the ring.
Okay, so all right. I like that you had a wide range of influences, favorites in your time. What was it that drew you to? Because you're mentioning Lita and Sable in the same sentence. Not and you're right. Not many people really look fondly on Sable's time in the WWE because she wasn't that like Trish or Lita that became the forebearers of at that time the women's movement. So what was it about Sable that actually drew you to her?
I think what it was is that she was just so confident. Like,
Okay.
even though she wasn't the best wrestler, like compared to someone like China, like she still had that confidence and she still brought her all to the ring for what she did during that time. She still gave her all. You could tell that she still worked hard.
Okay. And I get that too. I remember when she first broke out when Mark Merrow was her and they had her coming out with just being the model so to speak for the t-shirts. But then when her and Merrow split up, when Mark Merrow came back and did the jealousy angle and she had it was the I believe it was a SummerSlam match if I'm not mistaken. It was Jackie and Mark Merrow against Sable and Edge, who was a newcomer at the time. It was a great story.
No, I agree absolutely. And I think like it just kind of showed that she wasn't gonna take crap from a man regardless of her past relationship with him. Like it just kind of showed that she was confident in who she was as a woman, that she was a strong, independent woman, and that she, like I said, even though she wasn't the best women's wrestler, she
Hmm.
still went in there and she kicked butt.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you know, there's always been and still to this day that debate of who was the bigger uh, influence in terms of the first WWE diva, whether it was Sunny or Sable. Um, now, mentioning that Sable was on your radar, part of your favorites. Um, did you were you as a fan of Sunny, or was she in WCW by that time, or ECW, or wherever she went?
On the one VHS tape that I still have to this day, on the one VHS tape I have, I know that they did show her. So she was in it for a little while when I was watching it. But I just didn't like I didn't really get into her as much. Like I was more into Sable and China. Sunny just didn't really like I don't know what it was. She just didn't really like had that connect. I didn't have that connection with her.
Okay, okay, that's fair, absolutely. So moving on, because I want to bring up China a little bit later and something else I want to talk about. So we'll kind of talk about China a little bit later. But so going through high school and then do you graduate high school and then go into wrestling school, or how did your transition to wrestling school come about?
Well, I graduated high school and then I took a couple years off, just kind of worked, like just jobs, kind of save up some money.
Hmm.
And then at that point, I went to college. And then right after I graduated college, I had already had in my mind this game plan that I was going to save up money and I was going to go to wrestling school a year after graduation. Well, come about maybe a month or two, I actually just celebrated my anniversary of my wrestling debut, just as a timekeeper. But
Okay.
um, it was like July 24th, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, so July 24th, 2014. It was like a little while after. It wasn't that too long after I graduated college. My dad came home from the flea market, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to this wrestling show." I met up with the promoter up at the flea market. He was advertising his show. I told him how you wanted to be a wrestler, and he told me to bring you to the show that night, and
Great.
you could discuss it. And that's when I debuted as a timekeeper that night, and that's when I started training.
That's awesome. So your family was supportive then.
Surprisingly, yes. I was kind of surprised. I was like, "Really? You actually okay with this?" My mom at first, when she saw like all the bruises and the stuff from training,
Hmm.
she was like, "Why are you putting your body through this?" But but I mean, she watches wrestling too. Like she literally gets as soon as she comes home every morning from work, she goes downstairs, she turns on the Attitude Era, and she watches Stone Cold. That's her favorite.
Oh wow. Okay. That's awesome. But it's great that your dad, was looking out for you in terms of that. Now, starting off as a timekeeper, were you? I mean, at this point, kayfabe is dead anyways, so everybody knows that it's a work. But were you like given any kind of cues in terms of how the matches are going to end, when to ring the bell, et cetera, or were you literally just there going on a reaction?
For me, it was more of a reaction.
Okay.
I mean, they told me basically like, "Hey, once you hear the 1, 2, 3, ring the bell, um,
Okay.
then ring it, obviously, or ring it when the ref tells you to ring it, for like a disqualification or to start the match or whatever." But I remember one time actually, this is kind of a funny story, and it's definitely kind of like a rookie thing. I rang the bell after the match, and it just didn't ring very loudly. Like
Okay.
nobody really heard it. And the person that I actually team up with now, he was out there just kind of like for support for like one of the other members of our group,
Hmm.
and he totally just like ribbed me on it. He was like, "Ring the bell, ring it again." And so, and I broke. I started laughing, and he started laughing. So it's kind of a funny story of how I started out with um my first experience pretty much with the person that I team up with now. That was like our first interaction. So it's pretty funny.
Okay. That that's hilarious. I mean, but it's rookie. It happens. Um,
Yeah, it's a learning experience.
exactly. So, how long were you a timekeeper before you started training?
Well, I was training and I was doing the timekeeper thing at the same time. Like I
Okay.
literally started. I did the timekeeper thing that first night, and then the next weekend was when I actually started physically training. They were open to me doing it the next day to start training, but I decided to wait a week so that I could actually get things that I needed to prepare for it, like elbow pads and knee pads and stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, a week later, I actually started doing the physical training of learning to run the ropes and take the bumps. For a timekeeper, I wasn't a timekeeper very long before they transitioned me to like a ring girl and then to like a valet/manager. So
Okay.
that all kind of happened pretty fast. Um, Especially when they were able to get a few other girls in there. And then it wasn't until like maybe a couple years later of training that I had my first match. And that was
Okay.
kind of on my choice because they actually wanted me to do a match sooner, but I told them I didn't feel like I was ready. So I wanted to train a little bit more. So
Okay. So where did you train?
originally, I was training in Middletown, Ohio, for Tough Pro Wrestling. That's
Hmm.
where I got my start. I've trained a couple different places since then. Um, just because situations change, and then it's also, training with more people and getting a vast and diverse experience of training with different people. It's like a way of growing and learning and honing your craft.
Right. No, absolutely. That's great. So you started in 2014. That brings you, you're in the business for 6 years now. Um, where else have you trained?
Well, I've trained with the person that I'm teaming up with now.
Hmm.
So I've trained with him. For a while, Tough Pro Wrestling actually did bring in Jimmy Wang Yang, so I had the opportunity
Okay.
to work with him for a few months, and that was a good experience. Definitely learned a lot from him. He's very knowledgeable in this profession, and I know that
Hmm.
his daughter's actually started now, and
Oh, okay.
I think she's got great potential.
That's fantastic. We'll have to keep an eye on the scene for her.
Yeah, I think she's had a few matches now,
Okay.
including in Japan, which is really really cool.
Hmm.
So,
Have you been over to Japan yet, or no?
unfortunately, I have not. If
Okay.
I don't know if that opportunity will ever happen for me, but if it does, like I definitely would consider it for sure.
Okay. Yeah. From I mean, like, there's so much wrestling in the world now. It honestly feels, at least in my opinion, from what's on TV, what's on the internet, there's more wrestling around now than back in the territory days, because you've got so many uh, indie groups throughout the country. But then in Japan, you always hear about New Japan, but then there's, I believe, Stardom is out there as well, for an all women's league, which is what gave us, I believe, Kairi Sane, Asuka. Uh, I think Riho was out there as well. Some of the AEW women. How do you view, the state of women's wrestling right now?
Um, I think that I think that there's more which is great. I think
Hmm.
that in a way we're still trying to fight for that equality though, because there's
Okay.
still with the speaking out movement, for example, I know that there's still like a lot of discrimination in wrestling, and not just for the women, but even for the men too, because there's even men that spoke out saying how they were treated unfairly in the business. And but I definitely think that going from the women's aspect, I think that things have changed a lot, and I think that it's changed for the better,
Hmm.
because women are like main eventing now, which is awesome. Like if you
Yeah.
like 10, 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't have seen that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember the first women's main event on Raw was, Lita and Trish, in a singles match, when it was completely a women's main event, and I think that was 2003, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. So, it's come a long way, because I mean, just coming from, let's say, a casual wrestling fan, not somebody that's really a diehard fan that goes to the indie shows or whatever. You're basing your fandom on WWE, whether it's right or wrong. They're the ones that have been around for the longest. And there was a time there in the late 2000s, early 2010s, up until, I want to say, up until NXT really got the ball rolling. But you had a lot of, models in there, like the, George Giovanni, and even during the, era of, like, Christy Hemme, and, um, the late Ashley Massaro, who actually I was impressed because she actually did become a great wrestler. But you have a lot of the models that were hired for their looks and not necessarily for their uh, talent or their ability. Uh, and women's wrestling has come a long way now that you know you, you see Raw, SmackDown, a women's main event anytime.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know I know like a lot of the girls that came in just as models, not knowing what they were doing, a lot of them didn't get that opportunity to train because the company just wouldn't allow them, even though they wanted
Hmm.
to. But then there was some girls that still managed to find a way to, improve and become great women wrestlers, especially during that time.
Hmm.
So I can't I can't say that all of them, improved, but a lot of them did. Like even Candice Michelle improved. Like I remember like
Yep.
watching a match one time on Raw, and like she was just her athleticism was on like amazing, and then she was just working a lot faster than what she would normally do. And I said, "Oh wow, she's she's getting better."
Yeah. No, you're right. And Candice Michelle was kind of in that group that I was making reference to. But she was hired because she was the GoDaddy girl. During the commercials, Super Bowl commercials. And then you had Tori Wilson, Stacy Keebler around that time. I will say, but it did provide us with Victoria, who by far is one of the best women wrestlers of all time.
Oh yes, I definitely agree. Like I wish that I can't change the past, but I wish that her last match with WWE had been a win.
Yep.
But I can't change that. I had heard something about her had possibly having she was supposed to be, I guess, in the Royal Rumble this past year or something like that, and it just didn't
Hmm.
happen. And
Yep.
I don't know if that was their plan or not, and things just fell
Hmm.
through or what. But it would have been nice to have seen her in the Rumble.
No, I agree. Um, I absolutely agree with you. But all right, let's kind of get more into your career now. Um, so you're training out there. It's 2014. You start as a timekeeper. You're training for a couple of years. Training with some of the guest superstars that come in. Bring me through some of your training days or your training classes. Was it? Uh, I assume it wasn't an equal number of male and female. So I mean, how were the trainings?
Well, when I first started out, I was the only girl.
Okay.
When it first started out, I was the only girl. And then a couple weeks, maybe a couple months later, they brought in two more girls. Um, One of them is still in the business. The other one is not. Which is
Okay.
kind of surprising because I thought she would be the one. I thought she would still be in it. Because she seemed like she was pretty serious about it. But I guess things just kind of changed, and maybe something happened, and she wasn't able to
Hmm.
train anymore or something. I don't know exactly the situation, but um, yeah. So for a while there was a few girls, and then after a while it was kind of only me as the only girl again because
Okay.
the other girl ended up started training for another company. Um, so eventually it came down to the point where there's only like a few people that like I would regularly train with. And then once I lost my original trainer, they had to go and try to find somebody else. And at that point, I was just kind of training with whoever showed up early for the shows and just working
Yep.
with them just so I could get some training time in. So I remember like one time I was training with like Wild Bull Miller, who I actually
Okay.
ended up working for his promotion, IWA, until he passed away, and then the promotion started being run by someone else, and I'm not sure. I don't think that promotion's running anymore.
Okay.
From what I've heard. But I don't know. They may have changed the name or something like that. I don't know the full situation on that. Because around the time that that all happened, I was actually having to take time off due to health issues. So,
Okay.
but going back to the training thing, I trained with him and his uh, tag team partners and stuff at the time. And then I trained with a few other friends in the business that showed up before the shows, like Rob Fatone. I remember being there early. I would sometimes get in there and train with him. If Malice happened to be down from Michigan down in Ohio, I would work with him. Same with his tag team partner Sabotage.
Hmm.
Sometimes members of my team that I'm with, SOM. Sometimes Rooster and Rain would show up early, and I'd get to work with them. And then eventually they brought in Jimmy, and I started working with him. It was me and then a referee that was trying to learn some wrestling skills. So we trained with
Okay.
him for a few months, and then at that point, that's when after I was after that kind of fell through. I started training with my current tag team partner.
Okay. Excuse me. So you said training with your current tag team partner, and you made references, and I assume, and by what you said, it's a male. Um, excuse me. But so how do you see? And this is when I was going to bring up China, because she was known, at least in the early part of her WWE career. She's a former Intercontinental Champion, beating Jeff Jarrett. She would constantly be in tag team matches, teaming with X Pac or Road Dogg or Billy Gunn, to take on the other two. I think it was X Pac or Road Dogg against China and Billy Gunn. Uh, the hot topic right now, or one of the hottest topics in wrestling right now, is intergender matches. Um, and how, obviously, going through wrestling training and learning, it's going to be both men and women together. You're going to take the same bumps. You're going to be, doing the same training, and I get that. But when it comes to, actual shows, how do you see the intergender movement going right now?
Um, my view on it is that if a girl can train with the men, and most of us have been trained by the men, not very many
Hmm.
of us have been strictly trained by women. But if a girl can train with the men, then I think she should be able to wrestle a man on the show. Like it's no different. You're
Okay.
just in front of an audience. I understand that some promotions are against it because they view it as as it looks like domestic abuse. But it's like,
Hmm.
okay, it's a sport. It's a competitive sport, and if we can train with the men, we should be able to wrestle them.
Okay, I can understand that point of view, absolutely, and it does make sense. Um, a lot of the criticism comes in, and you had brought up sometimes the intergender matches, kind of makes it look like, domestic abuse, and growing up, a lot, the majority of males are taught never hit a woman or never hurt a woman, and we know while this is it's a predetermined sports entertainment, um, you still have to you know suspend your disbelief for a while you're watching it. So when you're in an intergender situation, whether it's a male and female against two males, or one man and woman versus one man and woman, um, do you do any different uh, types of uh, moves to put that together so it looks more believable?
I think it depends on who you're working with and what story you're trying to tell in the ring.
Hmm.
Like if you've got a story going where like you got a girl and she just keeps getting bullied by these guys, then obviously at some point, if they keep like pushing her and pushing her and pushing her, eventually she's gonna get angry enough that she's gonna, go all out on them and hit them.
Right.
Whether they were stalking her as the storyline or just continuously coming up and ganging up on her and beating her up or whatever. But
Hmm.
like I haven't really, I don't. I personally haven't really done anything different. Like I still incorporate my moveset, but
Okay.
at the same time, like if there's like something that I can make different to enhance the story, I'm definitely gonna jump on that.
Okay. All right. And just one more thing, just bringing up the intergender. Like I said earlier, China had been an intercontinental champion previously. And I guess part of her struggles with the WWE was that they wanted to strictly move her to the women's division. Which is why she became a women's champion as well. Um, just recently, not too long ago, Tessa Blanchard had become Impact's world champion. I believe she beat Brian Cage for the title, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, seeing more Brian Cage on AEW now, and I honestly haven't seen much of Tessa Blanchard just because I just got back into Impact myself. Um, those matches, the match between Tessa and Brian Cage, how did you see the match? Did you see the matches?
I had not seen those ones personally, but I had like read
Okay.
the results and stuff like that, so I know
Mhm.
that she had actually, won.
Mhm.
But I have seen some of her other matches. Not
Okay.
from Impact, but like from like on the Indies and stuff like that. So I have seen her work.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's kind of get back. Uh, how do you see your future in the business? You've been in the business for 6 years. Um, do you still consider yourself? Obviously you're on the indie scene, which is kind of taking a hit because of coronavirus, whatever, and all this pandemic. Um, what do you think your logical next step is? Have you had any tryouts for AEW or WWE or Impact?
Unfortunately not. As I mentioned earlier, I actually had to take some time off to deal with a health
Okay.
issue. And unfortunately that time out took a lot longer than I expected. I was hoping
Okay.
it would only be a few months, and it turned out to be a
Mhm.
lot longer.
Oh wow,
um,
I'm sorry about that.
yeah, so I've been kind of back sporadically every now and then since
Okay.
then.
Hmm.
Like I've come back as a manager a couple times. I've had a couple matches, just surprise, matches. But I haven't actually been able to have like my actual big comeback yet. Um,
Hmm.
I'd actually was planning to have that this year. I was hoping by this summer, like June,
Hmm.
that I would have been um, back in the, to doing matches again and training and stuff like that. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, that just didn't pan out because right now in Ohio, I believe they can't even do shows. Like they won't
Yeah.
allow it at all. I think they just recently started doing trainings again, but I heard that there's some pretty strict rules regarding that. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm not exactly sure how they're going about doing training. I don't even, I know there's some promotions that haven't even started doing training again because of everything going on. So,
Yeah. So obviously that was a big hit that the pandemic caused for you, is that you weren't able to get back to your big return. And yeah, just recently Ohio they put out the mask mandate. They're on one of the tr- uh, quarantine states that like can't travel to like the Connecticut, New York, New Jersey area without quarantining for 14 days. And actually, I was just out in Ohio, in the Cincinnati area back in um, at the end of May, and it was they weren't enforcing the mask rule, and it seems like the wave of the pandemic has moved out there. So when was the last time that you were able to actually get into the ring?
well, the last time I was able to get into the ring was like back in January. And I
Okay.
was managing a match for Nicholas Davidson, but I was able to actually kind of get in there and still get kind of physically involved. I basically like jumped up and like was trying to distract the ref, distract the rest his opponent, and his opponent actually kind of like hit me and made me fall to the ground, but that provided
Mhm.
the distraction for Nick to win.
Okay, so you did your job.
Oh yeah, I dropped.
um, so do you prefer being a heel or a babyface?
I love being a heel because
Okay.
it's like a totally different experience as a heel than as a face. Like as a face, you get to be all happy, bubbly, positive, and that's kind of just what I try to be all the time.
Hmm.
As a heel, I get to be a little bit more assertive, more aggressive. I can just be like mad at the world, and I can let my sarcasm out. I can do that in a way that's comedic. So
Hmm.
that's I actually enjoy being a heel, but I feel like with my career, I've been more of a baby face. Um,
Okay.
but I would definitely want more experience as a heel. So, and thankfully, with my tag team partner, I actually do get to have that experience more as a heel. But when it's me just kind of doing my own thing, it's more they put me as a baby face.
Gotcha. Okay, I can understand that. Now, when it comes to like women, and forgive me for my ignorance, but do they base your heel babyface persona off your looks?
Honestly, I think it is. I think it is. I think it's because oh, she's kind of got that the blonde hair, blue eye, kind of all American Girl Next Door look. And then I've
Hmm.
got the bubbly personality normally, so they're thinking, oh,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, this is babyface. This screams babyface.
Okay. Um. All right. Well, let's. What are some of your goals for like the pending this pandemic ends within the next? I mean, I personally feel that it's going to end after Election Day, but that's conspiracy theory on my part. Um, but with this, with the pandemic here, hopefully it does end pretty fairly soon, so that we can get back to a normal. We get back to normal wrestling events. What would be your future career goals? Do you have the aspirations to get to an AEW or WWE or Ring of Honor, Impact, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I definitely have career goals. First of all, obviously get back in that ring and do what I
Hmm.
love to do. I actually have like a little wrestling bucket list saved
Hmm.
of things I want to do before my career is over, even though I always say that I'll never retire. I'll end up being like, nay, never retire. But, but like I want to do guest commentary for a
Okay.
match. I would love to participate in. I've participated in intergender rumble, but I really want there to be like a women's rumble somewhere on the indies that I can participate in because I think that would be really cool to see. Just to see
Hmm.
all these women from all over the world participating in an independent women's rumble. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want to win tag team championships because I've never been a tag team champion. I've been like women's champion a,
Hmm.
a couple times, but my goal championship wise next would be actually to be a tag team champion.
Okay.
As for the mainstream, if I get the opportunity to try out, I'll absolutely try out, and if it goes
Hmm.
somewhere, absolutely.
All right. So, I mean, hopefully that there's another Mae Young Classic. Uh, I would assume next summer there'll be another one. So if you got the call and let's say Triple H was on the other line, on the other end, or Mark Carrano, or anybody else involved in the higher ups with WWE or NXT, then you'd have your bags packed in a flash.
Oh yeah, I'd be like, I'm on the next flight.
Well, that's fantastic. And hopefully we'll be able to see you up on on WWE or NXT TV.
Yeah,
Um,
there's been some girls that I've worked with that have been able to make appearances on WWE. So I'm actually very proud of those girls. I think it's amazing that they're accomplishing so many amazing things, and I hope they even get to go on to bigger things.
Well, the next time WWE gets a chance to travel, and they're in the Ohio area, maybe you'll get tapped as an extra, at least get your foot in the door there.
Oh yeah, I would love that. That would be so much fun.
That's awesome. Um, so, as a wrestling fan now, switching gears a little bit, what there's so much wrestling on TV, even I can't keep up with it. But um, what do you normally watch in a normal week in terms of wrestling?
I keep up with WWE. So I'm
Hmm.
keeping up with it. I try to keep up with AEW. Usually if I get to watch it, it's usually on the weekends. That's
Hmm.
when I try to catch up on it. But um, unfortunately, I haven't been watching Impact as much. But I have been watching WWE, and I'm trying to keep up with AEW as well.
Okay, yeah, it's funny because like I didn't watch. I think WWE has kind of spoiled everybody with the WWE network, and all of their pay-per-views are on the network, so it's still included in that 9.99 a month. Although I have been hearing rumors where they're going to try to get like the main four off of the network and onto like the Fight app or Fox Sports app or whatever. That's in the pipeline from what I heard. But like I saw Slammiversary. I didn't watch it, but I saw that it was on this past Saturday or last Saturday, and you know, some of the guys that were released from the WWE in April made their way over there. Gallows and Anderson, Eric Young, EC3, and uh, Deanna Perrazzo, who's the new Knockouts champion. And it actually got my interest in Impact back just from those signings. So if you have the opportunity to, definitely give them another chance.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think what it is just been more of a timing thing. I just haven't had the
Yeah.
time to just watch everything because I'm trying
Yep.
to like see what's going on with the indies of like with the states that actually are getting to do some stuff. Um,
Hmm.
and just getting to watch obviously WWE. That's that's easy access with the network and all that.
Right.
And then AEW's just really been keeping me interested, just to see what they're doing because it's kind of got like a different vibe, like a different energy compared to the other promotions right now. It's kind of like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Well, how do you view the AEW women's division? Because I know it's been criticism of theirs that their women's division is lackluster at this point.
I'm kind of intrigued by this tag team tournament they're about to do. I
Yep.
think that's going to bring in some fresh faces. So I'm interested to see who surprisingly shows up. I mean, we already know a couple people that are going to show up. Like, we already know that
Hmm.
former WWE diva Cameron is going to show up. Um,
Yep.
I'm, and I know I've heard something about Tainara showing up possibly. I think Jericho kind of spoiled that or something.
Yeah, that tag team match happens tonight as we're recording. It's Nyla Rose and Ariane versus Tay Conti and who was her tag? They posted online, but it's going to be on their YouTube channel tonight as of 7 o'clock as we're taping it. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Now, how do you feel about Nyla Rose being part of the women's division, being the first openly transsexual um, female to be in a major promotion? I know there's been a lot of controversy and whatever. Me personally, I don't care. It's a predetermined outcome anyways. So I say more power to her.
Oh, I agree. I actually there's a there's a member of our group SOM. Her name is Miss Kira Bangkok,
Hmm.
and she's actually trans. So
Okay.
like she's like a man, but she dresses up like a woman, and sometimes she looks better than us women. So, but yeah, she was actually one of the first people I talked to when I started. Um, when I actually showed up there that first night, and like she was absolutely awesome. Like she gave me advice right away. Like she was super nice, and like so I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Yep, I can understand that. All right. So what are you doing now? Like, what's your training schedule like? I'm not talking about training in the ring, but I mean, are you able to kind of hit the gym, or the gym's closed out there, or are you able to work out at all to kind of keep your body in ring shape?
I work out at home. So
Okay.
yeah, that's where I exercise. I exercise at home. I know that the gyms I believe are open here, from my
Hmm.
knowledge, but I know that they have the mask policy and
Yep.
stuff like that. Because I know like some of the girls that I've worked with in the past are hitting the gyms because their gyms opened up finally, so that gave them the opportunity to get back into shape. You know, kind of shake off some of that rust of not being able to exercise the way they normally would. And you
Hmm.
know, I'm sure they've exercised at home, tried to, you know, just deal with it as best as they could when their gyms were closed. But for me, I exercise at home because it's easier for me that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always kind of exercised at home. I mean,
Hmm.
I've debated joining a gym, but it's it's always just been easier for me to just exercise at home. So that's what I
Okay.
do. And then I also I've got all this stuff planned out. Like I just kind of have always have wrestling on my mind. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking merchandise ideas. I'm thinking how can I amp up my gimmick when I come back, or change my gimmick,
Hmm.
or change the theme music or whatever. I'm always thinking of constant different ways of taking it up a notch.
Yep.
So like I've got a list of possible songs as the new theme music. I've got a whole bunch of like t-shirt ideas, um, just merchandise ideas. Um, I've
What
got
is your current theme song?
um, my current theme song is "Heaven Knows" by the Pretty Reckless.
Okay.
Unless I'm with Nicholas Davison, then it's either "Shepherd of Fire" by Avenged Sevenfold, or it's Thunderkiss
Yep.
75, I believe is what it
White
is.
Zombie.
Yes.
Yep.
It just depends on
I
what
think it's
music he
Thunderkiss
decides.
65.
Oh, if it
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure
Yep.
about the number, but I know like it depends on what music he decides to use that day. He usually prefers using Thunderkiss.
Okay. I'm a huge Rob Zombie mark, so I mean, I've got a lot of his CDs.
Yeah.
um, so okay, so do you have a store on Pro Wrestling Tees?
I do not, but my Nick does. He actually just got one.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, great. So where can people get your merchandise now?
Well, right now I don't have any current merchandise. I actually like
Oh,
sold
okay.
my I sold my my last like t-shirts like a while back. I had a fan hit me up online asking if I had any shirts available, and I just happened to have a few left, and I said, "Well, I got a few
Mm-hmm.
left in this size. Is that okay?"
Hmm.
And they said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a collector, so you know, I'll definitely take them." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I mailed them, so I'm kind of like, don't have anything right now. Um,
Hmm.
but as our group, SOM, there are some SOM shirts out there through his pro wrestling tees shirt store, which is
Okay,
Nicholas Davidson. So,
okay.
and he
So,
just got those up. So,
oh, fantastic. Okay. So yeah, for all you people out there listening, SOM, what does that stand for?
it stands for Sins of Man.
Okay. So go on to Pro Wrestling Tees and look up Nicholas Davidson. You said
Yeah, Nicholas Davidson.
okay, and then find the SOM shirt. And so how could fans reach you? And kind of follow you on social media. We know that your Twitter handle is at wrestling_lady. How about? And I see you have Facebook as well.
Yes. I have a Facebook fan page, and it's just literally Jessica Jean Wrestler. Right after you write,
Okay.
Facebook.com. Um, and I also have an Instagram, which is also wrestling_lady. Um,
Okay.
so those are a few ways that you can get in touch with me.
Okay. Um, Great. Do you have any advice for anybody who's listening that wants to get into the wrestling industry? Whether it's, I mean, and doesn't have to be, just specifically towards boys or girls, but just anybody out there that that wants to get into the industry.
I think if it's something that you really, really feel passionate about, you really want to try it, then absolutely go for it. Do the research, find a place where you can train at, exercise, eat healthy, drink lots of water. Um, just the more serious you take it,
Hmm.
the better your chances are of succeeding in this business. So absolutely, go for it. Um, just never give up. Um, Even when you get stressed out, because there will be times where you'll get stressed out. Don't give up. If this is something that you really want to do it. Like make your dream come true.
That's fantastic. Well, Jessica, thank you very much for coming on the show. Um, well, again, I want to thank you. I think your story's great, and I hope to see you on WWE or NXT, within the next few years.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on the show. I appreciate getting to know you, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So I just so that's where I'll cut off the interview.
Okay.
Um, so thank you. I really appreciate it. I was following you for a while on Instagram until my account got banned. Um, but no, I'm glad that you're going to be getting back into the ring as soon as you can, and that's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was like an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will get this posted. I'll probably post it tomorrow. I'm in the middle of putting up a lot of archived footage up on YouTube, if you can't tell by all the posts. But yeah, I'll definitely have this episode up by tomorrow on both YouTube and on for the video and Anchor for the audio.
Awesome. That sounds great. Just let me know when it gets posted, and I'll definitely
Oh,
share it.
absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. I will.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. You
Bye bye.
you take care. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right. So that was my interview with Jessica Jean. Um, and just fantastic how she's started in the industry as a timekeeper, and now she's waiting to make her in-ring return once all this coronavirus garbage gets out of the way. But it was a great interview. I want to thank her for coming on. And like she said, you can go ahead and follow her fan page on Facebook, facebook.com/slash Jessica Jean Wrestler, and follow her on Twitter and Instagram at wrestling underscore lady. Again, my name is Vinny Appicelli. You can follow me on Facebook, I'm sorry, on Twitter at the Apicella SWE. Follow the Sports Wire on Twitter at SportsWire Audio. Um, you can also go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/sportswire SWE, and follow us on Anchor as well, anchor.fm/sportswire audio, and go to sportswireaudio.com, which will bring you to our Anchor page anyways. But again, I want to thank Jessica Jean for coming on the show. My next show will be another interview. Um, this time it's not going to be a wrestling personality. It's actually going to be uh, a fire performer troupe. Actually, two people who are the brainchild of the Firefly Flow troupe, not the Firefly Funhouse, but I'll be recording that episode in a couple of days or tomorrow. Get that up probably by next week. This show, I want to thank you all for listening again. My name is Vinny Abasolo. Thank you for listening to the Sports Wire. We'll see you again next time.